Hey, welcome back to VentoBot. And today on this episode of Don't Kill the Messenger podcast, I have Donna McPherson, where we're going to cover some money strategies for small businesses to bank big profits. Now, Donna is a business and financial strategist. She gives strategies to small business owners and professionals so that they can live the way they want, having their money work for them. Now, before we begin, don't forget to go over to ventobot.com/book to get the book where we send it to you for free. Just cover shipping. That way you can walk through the exact 4 phases we take our private clients through to generate never-ending leads. So today, welcome, Donna. How you doing?
Hi, I'm doing wonderful. How are you, Victor?
Great, great, great. So you have some fantastic gold nuggets for us today, and I'm excited to dive right in. So let's kind of start with the first kind of question here. Why do a lot of small businesses struggle, especially with the money and financial aspect of things?
Well, Victor, most small business owners, they find themselves in business. They did not necessarily plan to be in business. Some people, it happened by default. Some people inherited it, and some people just got lucky. And so there wasn't necessarily a lot of forethought or training. So it's about getting caught up. Once you're in it, you need to figure out what you need to do to win. So you struggle in the beginning, and there's a lot of issues in the beginning, because as wonderful as it is to own your own business, there can be challenges. And there are challenges in several areas.
And what would you say are some of those areas? Because I know for me, when I first started, like the cash flow version of this was very difficult. I know there's a statistic about like 3 years, usually most businesses fail. But like, what would you say are the most, like, what are those 3 main areas?
Well, I have 5 main areas that I look at. 5. Money is definitely number 1, because not enough planning is usually done beforehand to figure out how much money you need to start and to operate until you start making money. And the next one is management. Sometimes small business owners do everything. Sometimes it's by necessity, and sometimes it's kind of a little control thing. We don't think anybody else can do what we do as well as we do it. So when you try to do everything, you kind of like dilute some of the things, especially if your expertise is to sell or deliver a specific kind of service. You're not able to do that as much. And so the money is not going to come in as fast. Another one is expertise. You have to know where your expertise lie. And if you are not able to give your business what it needs, you got to find somebody who can do it, or you will not succeed.
And before you move on, I like to speak to that specifically, because I know for myself, definitely at the very beginning, I was wearing all the hats, right?
Of course.
It wasn't until I brought on, like, I partnered with my wife. We didn't even realize this. She's actually very good with numbers as far as financial side of things. Like, I, for one, find that to be the most mundane task for me, right? Because I'm more of a creative. I'm not very logistical from that sense. But when we brought her in, things just like immediately changed, and she created systems that were like, able to do things. And then additionally, like you said, hiring out to, and there is a little bit of that control thing, right? There's things like I need to know certain things, but I don't need to know everything, how the inner workings go. I just need to know it's working, at least for the most part. But I feel like a lot of people get stuck in that. They're like, they don't want to let go, or they're like, I can't afford to hire somebody for help me with that. But that's more of like a mindset thing, I feel, for a lot of people, right?
It is a mindset thing.
Yeah.
And you struggle, and they would struggle for a very long time, and their business would hurt because you're not able to give your business the food that it needs to grow.
Right. I love that. I mean, it's true. You got to feed it if you want to.
You got to feed it. It's just like everything else. If you want it to grow, you got to give it the right nutrients.
Yeah,
and if you don't have it, you have to access it. If you can beg for it, okay. If you can borrow or barter, okay. But most of the times, you got to invest in it. You have to find the expertise that you need and invest in it so you can get the returns that you want.
Absolutely. So what would you say is next? Like we got to a few of them. Yeah.
Planning.
Planning.
How are you going to make money if you don't have a plan of how you're going to do so? You absolutely need a plan. And the plan should indicate how much money you'd like to make, at least at a bare minimum. How much do you want? What do you think?
Right. No, absolutely. I completely agree. Because that's, again, at the very early stages of our business, we were, man, gosh, I can't even remember, but it was like, we were just taking anyone on, but there was no specific plan in place to be like, how can we make this profitable? It was more of a survival mode.
Yeah.
Like it's hard to get out of that once you're like stuck in it.
Yep.
If you don't understand what's actually happening.
Yeah. And you're going to love this last one, systems and processes.
Yeah.
You are going to love this. One of the ways you will lose money is if you don't have efficient systems and processes. If you are repeating the same thing, or you're starting over every time, you're starting from scratch, and you don't have a flow to know where, if you're working with clients, they are in your process, there's a lot of ways, a lot of inefficiencies, and a lot of money going out the door.
Oh yeah, no, I definitely completely agree. So in quarter 3 of 2019, we really invested heavily into that because one, for personal reasons, we needed to start getting myself and my wife out of the business a little bit more, because we were both wearing a lot of the hats, and we were pregnant at the time. So it was like out of necessity, we needed a way to be able to take her out. She wasn't going to be able to be there a lot of it like she was before.
Mm-hmm.
And now we have the systems in place that our VA she's like a rock star. She comes in and she really just takes over a lot of the administrative tasks that my wife used to do. My wife still likes to handle a lot of the financial stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then I handle a lot of the implementation and strategy. So the next step for us is definitely finding someone to focus on the implementation. But without those systems, it's not even possible, because they would be making up their own way of doing it, where instead of following the way we've always done it, that makes sense for us to get the repeatable results.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so what all that means is you got to know how you're going to make your money.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to know how you're going to save money or spend only where you need to, because what's left over is going to be profit for you. So it's money in, money out equals profit. And another piece, because I'm also a tax professional, is you got to early on figure out, when you're making big moves, how it's going to impact your taxes. At the end of the year, it's not the time to do it. Beginning of the year or during the year, you may have to change the way you do certain things in order to get that savings at the end of the year.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, absolutely. Because I know for us at the start of 2020, it's definitely like we have some big plans for 2020. And after our yearly meeting, the next milestone at our Q2 meeting, we're going to definitely look at like, what are we doing? What have we done? What worked? What didn't? And then we kind of pivot and go from there. And I feel there's a lot of that in business as you grow, but there's definitely, if you don't have that plan, like you mentioned, you don't know where you're going. You're just doing things.
And then here's another thing I'm going to add to that. When it comes to making money, when I work with my clients, the first thing I do is I say, okay, let's get to know or understand what your maximum revenue potential is, based on your time, your resources, your capabilities. What is the maximum amount of money you can make in your business? When we start there, and then I look at, okay, so where are you now? What are you doing now? And then here's the gap. How are we going to fill that gap?
Mm-hmm.
And there are a few ways you can fill that gap when it comes to generating more revenue. You either have more volume, you sell more, you increase your prices and give more value, not just take more money, but give more value,
right?
Or you add another revenue streams. There's only certain ways you can make more money. You bring in more, you up the value and the price, or you add something else, or you bundle and do different things like that.
Absolutely. And I love that, because I know, and I want you to speak to this a little bit, because I know, I feel like some of the listeners here will definitely might resonate or be in this position. Not a lot of them, but a few of them might be in this position where they're kind of like at their survival mode, and they're in like this, well, I kind of have to just create stuff so that people can work with me. And so I just got back from like a mastermind weekend with a client, and where I was talking to multiple 6, 7, 8 figure companies. business owners, and they all had one thing in common. Like they did one thing and they focused on that and they went all in.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's the fastest path to profit. And then after that, they start, exactly as you said, start having iterations of that. Like what some of it's group, or like a do-it-yourself course or something like that. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
What would you say
And one of the things I say is, like most teams have an MVP, have a MVP, their most valuable player. In your business, you should have an MVP to your most valuable product. When
like
you know your most valuable product, it means you are giving high value. It has a high profitability, and that is how you're going to make your most money. You're giving them value and they're paying for it. And that will take the place. You can sell maybe 2 or 3 of those a month versus 10 to 20 of the smaller items. You want to make sure you're giving a ton of value and you price it well. And so it becomes your MVP in your business. That is bankable money.
Yeah, I absolutely love, like, I've never thought about it that way, but yeah, that's so true. Yeah. Your most valuable product, your MVP. I'm going to write that down. We're going to put that in there as one of the highlights there, because that's definitely a writer downer for sure.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. So what then, I guess, help me understand. Let's speak more to the majority here and more of the advanced group. They're at this, I'm sure, like, they're kind of like me, they're at this point of like scaling. Usually, and what I found in my experience is, like, when you start to scale your business, you're spending a lot, as well as you're like a lot of cash flow is just happening, but there's not much profit. Is that true, or what have you found for that?
Well, when you're scaling is like investing in the next level.
Right.
So you want to make sure that you have the finances for that.
Sure.
So if it means that you are going to get additional funding, that's what you do. If it means that you're going to use up reserves in your business that you already have, that's what you do. But you want to think of scaling as next level of investing. Otherwise, if you mix up scaling with your regular operations, it's going to become frustrating because you're going to feel like you're bleeding money. Yeah. But all you're doing is investing so you can get returns later on in the future.
Right. I love that. That was beautifully said. Like, I mean, I feel, so we're actually in this position right now to where we're scaling. Our team is growing, but we're also doing things like sponsoring and everything like that. Yes. And it's crazy because I do feel like that. It is an investment, but it's crazy to see. I've never seen so much money move around so quickly.
Yes.
And it's almost scary.
Well, it's almost like another operation. It's like you're running 2 operations. You're running your regular operations, and then you're going for this next piece, which is kind of like a higher level or an add-on. So you want to have like 2 sets of budgets going.
Yeah.
And that's when it's going to feel like you're in control, because you're planning for this, you allocated funds for it, and you're not taking away from your regular operations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that I know is definitely, at least for us, is one of the things. Like, again, one of the reasons I love what you said about planning, because if you don't have that, right, I feel like you're kind of just shooting in the dark and you're like, I hope this works. Like, whereas this is more, it's more.
It's part of the plan. And this is why in the beginning, Victor, I said, you must know what is the maximum revenue possible for your business. Sense. I call it my MRP, maximum revenue potential. If you know what the potential is, then you can go after it. You can plan for it. You know what resources you need to get it, and you can go and execute. But if you start doing it without understanding that, okay, the maximum amount of money that I can make in this business right now is $200,000. If you don't know that and you start throwing in money, and next thing you know, you've thrown in almost $200,000, you're not making any money because you didn't plan for that.
Right. So I just wanted to take a moment, and for everyone listening or watching, wherever you're listening this or watching this from, take a moment to write those 2 things down, those 2 acronyms, MRP for maximum revenue potential. What is that? And then look at your most valuable product, your MVP. It seems like from those 2 things, you can start to identify what's the next right move for your business. And
Absolutely.
it's obviously you need someone like Donna to kind of really map all that stuff out for you. However, if you can at least come to her with some of that knowledge already to help make it even better.
And Victor, one of the things I do also is someone may say, Donna, I think this is my MVP. And by the way, when you use those, I would appreciate credit for them.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. No,
Not you, the listeners.
Right. No, yeah, sure.
But the thing is, someone may think they have a MVP, but when I do the analysis, it's not really an MVP. It's a product that they just love. It's something that they love to do. A MVP would give you high profit. It's a high profitability kind of product or initiative that you're doing. And you have to know the numbers around that before you start putting it out there. Because the last thing you want to do is scale something that's inefficient, that's going to hurt you or your business.
So I have a question on that. So profit, you keep mentioning like profitable. And I'm let's just use me as an example. Well, first, because it's my show, so I was like, why not?
Yeah, right.
Second, it'll allow everyone to kind of put it into context. As far as profitability goes, we have a particular service, right?
Okay.
It is a profitable service.
Okay.
And I consider profit to also include time. Does that
yes.
Does that make sense? Because it actually doesn't require anything of my time anymore. And so, although the actual cash profit is minimal, my time invested in that is almost non-existent. So it's handled by my team now, and I feel like it's one of our most, like, it's kind of up there, just because it's one of our lower end products as far as price point wise. But I feel with cash flow and time, looking at profitability, it's one of our most profitable, because then I can spend my time elsewhere. So speak to that real quick.
So here's the thing. If the team that's doing the work, it's not spending a ton of time to eat away at the profit, that's an evaluation you'll need to do to make sure that with everything that's being done, every resource that's being put into it, there's still enough left to make you feel that it's profitable. And you'll have to determine what's profitable based on, your own company. But one thing everyone should know is whatever industry you're in, you should know what the profit margins are. Like for every industry, when I work with my clients, the first thing I check and see, let me look and see what the industry says you should be doing and what are you actually doing. If your industry says your profit should be 10%, or you should be spending maybe 20% on marketing and you're spending 40, then I want to understand why. Maybe there's some inefficiency. So if nothing else, work with a professional that can tell you, if you're not able to get that information yourself, understand what it should cost you to run a business like this in terms of percentage of your income that should go towards the various costs. So you know what to expect. So if you're not getting that, you can do something about it.
Right. So I guess to throw in some numbers, I know specifically for this particular service, it's a 30% profit, right? The 70% goes to actually like providing that service. The other 30% is, again, I don't have anything to do with it once someone signs on with that particular service. So it's 30% profit. And to me, I'm like, that's all profit because I don't do anything anymore. The team handles it and they keep it at between 60 and 70% as far as like providing that service, right? For what it costs.
So if after the team's resources being used, you still get that, that's great.
Yeah. So, okay.
But we still have to allow something for their time.
Right. Exactly. So that's, so like the majority of the actual stuff is like 50%. There's another 10 to 20% that's involved with a team. But I take that into account. But I just wanted to clarify that because I know a lot of people might just be thinking right now, like, hey, it has to be profitable as far as money goes. But I know I'm sure you kind of feel this way too, that there's also some value in having time given back, because that's definitely a resource.
Well, here's one of the most important thing you just raised.
Right.
A lot of times there are things that could be done by someone at a lower pay grade.
Yeah.
And that's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
That you can reserve your time for what you do best. and pass it on to someone at a lower pay grade to do what they do best and save you money.
Yeah.
And time.
And that, just like you mentioned earlier, like speak to your like superpower, kind of stay in your area of expertise.
Yes.
And without those, and like you mentioned earlier, systems, without that, this wouldn't be possible. Because I'd be having to redo it, or they'd be making their own way of doing it, which could be cutting into price. I love it. So, and I just kind of wanted to add that in there because I feel like it's important for everyone to also understand that. And I'm sure we can go on for this for hours, but we're running
I know.
So, but where can someone find you as far as like, you know what, they need a plan, they need a strategy to because they're either cash flow strapped or something along the lines, but they want to take that next step. They want to move that next level and they don't know what to do. How can they reach out and find you?
So Victor, one of the things I offer is a business breakthrough session. And what I do, I get to understand your business. I want to hear how you're making money. I listen for opportunities where I believe you can make more money or save money. And so I offer business breakthrough sessions. Someone can go to my website, DonnaMcPherson.cpa.com. That's DonnaMcPherson.cpa.com, and click on Business Breakthrough and schedule some time with me. I'd love to talk to you about your business.
Awesome. No, thank you so much for coming on the show. Now, before we end the show, if you're serious about generating never-ending leads to be able to bring in those qualified prospects so that you can profit and grow your business, then go on over to ventobot.com/book to get your free copy of the book. Just cover shipping. We'll send it right over to you. And until next time, I'm Victor with Ventobot. I'll see ya.
Bye.